Hi, this is Nish from Why Be Aligned, and for this week's Movement Monday, we're going to be looking at the elbow and forearm. The elbow is quite a simple joint in that it only moves one way, so I thought I'd tag on the forearm so you can see how the two work together. First of all, what is our elbow joint? Well, it's the connection between the upper and lower arm, and in the upper arm you have your humerus, and in the lower arm you have your ulnar and radius bones. So in our sagittal or side-on plane, we've got flexion of the elbow, which is where it's bending or closing, and that's where the forearm is coming up towards the upper arm. And then we've got the forearm lowering, which is extension of the elbow, which is opening of the elbow joint. So we don't actually have any movement in the frontal plane in just the elbow to forearm section. Generally, we're doing those movements from the wrist or the shoulder joints, and it can look like there's movement in the forearm, for instance, if I'm doing this. However, that's actually using the rotation of the upper arm. So our frontal plane doesn't actually apply to this section. Okay, so next we've got our transverse, or our twisty-turny rotational plane, as I like to call it. So this top, unfortunately, isn't great because obviously the bones can't move on the top, but you still will get an idea of what's happening. So the movement in the transverse plane actually happens from the elbow joint down to the fingertips. The whole forearm and hand twist and turn in this rotational plane. So we have supination, which is where the palm and the forearm are facing to the ceiling, and I'll show you that way. And then we have pronation, where the palm and the forearm are facing down to the floor. Now, what's happening when we do this, if I was doing it this way, obviously there's no floor involved, but I'm still able to rotate and rotate. So we could call this outward rotation of the arm or the forearm, and then inward rotation of the arm. So our supination is the external rotation or outward rotation. Pronation is the internal rotation or downwards rotation. So what is happening in these lower arm bones when we're doing that rotation? Well, the bones lie alongside each other. So from elbow to wrist joint, imagine them lying alongside each other like this. And then as we rotate the arm, the bones cross over. So you get this X at one point in the arm, and then it will uncross. So although the two ends of the bones stay fixed in their joints, because they rotate, you get this crossover and then an uncrossing. You might even be able to feel those rotations in your arm bones as you do this. So now we know how we want the bones to move, but do they do that, and what can we do to help encourage them along? Okay, so we know in our side-on plane, we've got our flexion and extension of the elbow. Now, what I see a lot when I watch people's gait videos, which is a video of them walking, is that they're never fully extending their elbow and therefore not utilising their shoulder joints properly. Now, while the shoulder will be a separate edition of Movement Monday, if we can get the elbow extending well, it can really help the whole arm, fingertips to shoulder joint, move well. A lot of us have that flexion in our arms constantly, from being on computers, holding phones, chopping at dinner, picking things up, driving. Even when we sleep, a lot of us will be in this curled up fetal position, and so we've constantly got this crease in our elbows. And that's not a bad thing per se, but we want to give them the opposite experience of being open. So as opposed to just taking your elbow down to the floor, which you might find it's still got a bit of a bend in it, I want you to try taking the elbow open and bringing it forward and really feeling a stretch throughout the forearm, and then also opening the elbow and then taking the arm behind you. And you can try that palm to ceiling and palm to floor, but with this straight elbow throughout. And that's just going to give you an experience of really extending the elbow forward and extending the elbow backwards. So for our transverse or rotational plane, we can either do this with flexed elbows or with extended elbows. I'll show you both ways. With your flexed, I want you to imagine you are holding a tray. So your elbow is going to sit directly underneath your shoulder, and then the tray means you've got to have nice straight arms, so they're parallel to the floor, and we don't want the drinks falling off the front of the tray or onto you. So imagine this tray when you're doing this. Laser beams are going to shoot out the middle of or the front of your middle fingers. So directly ahead of you is the laser beams. So keep your laser beams facing forward, elbows close in, and that tray position. And what you're going to do, you can either do one hand at a time or both hands. You're going to use your thumbs to go up towards the ceiling to rotate the palms so they're in towards each other, and then keep rotating so the palms go to the floor. Now you might find you can get a little bit more if you keep dipping your thumbs, and you should really feel this in your forearms waking up. And then, and again, making sure your elbows stay pinned in close. Then your laser beam still pointing forwards. You're going to take your thumbs up towards the ceiling, which will rotate your palms upwards. Keep going with the thumbs. And then you're going to be palms facing the ceiling, and keep going with those thumbs. Really set those forearms on fire and feel that rotation in your forearms, and it will reflect through to your elbow joint. Now, with the nice open extended arm, your laser beams out the front of your middle fingers are going to point to the floor. So what I want you to do is point the thumbs outwards, and I want you to think about those rotating out away from you, so out to the sides, and that's going to bring the palms facing straight ahead. Middle fingers still pointing towards the floor, arms nice and close to the body. We don't want any of this happening. That will affect the position. So arms, and then keep going with the thumbs. You'll probably get a bit more rotation, stopping at the point when you feel like it's going just into your shoulder joints or into the back of the shoulders. We just want this to be a lower arm movement. And then your thumbs can come back in towards ahead of you, and then all the way around, so as if they're going to bump into your thighs. Let them keep going until again you feel like you want to kick in with these shoulder joints. This is just our lower arm we're moving. So going between the palms facing away from the body, facing ahead, and the thumbs away from the body, to the thumbs coming in towards the body and the palms facing behind. And feel that rotation movement in the arms while that elbow is nice and straight and open. So those are the movements of our elbow and our forearm. Give them a go, see how they feel, and see if you can wake up some of those muscles. I for sure am really feeling all the muscles in my forearm waking up now. And that was another Movement Monday. Do be sure to join in again next week. Look out for the next video and subscribe so you don't miss any of these videos.